This African adventure began with 2 nights near Zanzibar city. On our full day there, we visited Josani Shwaka Bay National Park. The main attractions are monkeys. The red colobus monkeys there are habituated to be near humans. They're not bothered by humans, nor do they bother us. When we walked within arm's length of them, they continued to forage or munch on leaves without acknowledging our presence. The colobus part of the species name means that their hands have 4 fingers but no thumbs. These monkeys have long tails that are used for balance. They're not prehensile. They don't hang from them. They travel easily through the trees, even when the trees are quite small and barely even able to support them. There are also blue monkeys at the park. They prefer to keep more space between themselves and the visiting humans. The mangrove crab lived in a tidal swamp. When we ferried to Chumbe Island, we faced 4-foot swells and a fairly strong wind. This was our ferry. It took approximately 1.5 hours to make the 6-mile trip that should have taken about 40 minutes. There's approximately a 10-foot difference between the water level at high tide and low tide. We arrived at high tide and stepped from the boat onto about the 8th step from the top on this pier. When we departed a few days later, it was near low tide and we had to walk about 1/4 of a mile and across the tide flats that you can see here. When the tide is very low, there's no water between the land and the seagrass as shown on the map. The building in the center of this photo is the common area where we ate and registered and lounged. This is our hut. There was a wall separating the front open living area from the bathroom, which was in the back. Our hut had a compost toilet. After each use, we put 3 scoops of compost down the toilet hole. One evening, there was a gecko on the scoop in our compost basket. He appeared to be regrowing a tail that he had lost previously. Snorkeling got better as the week went on, but we never did really see clear water. The reef, however, was in fairly good shape. We did see some colorful coral. In some cases, we saw some fish doing amusing things. I don't know whether these surgeon fish are in a mating ritual or what they're doing. This is some healthy cabbage coral. This is a blue tubular sponge. And these are more examples of some of the healthy coral that we saw there. A blue spotted ribbon-tail ray. A lionfish. And back on land, we have a coconut crab. You can see a coconut shell on the right for size perspective. It's typical for them to have a large right claw and a larger left claw. And this one probably would span 12 to 16 inches if he put those two front legs straight apart. Coconut crabs vary in color, as you can see in this video. And they can move fairly quickly when they want to. They look much shorter than they actually are. As you can see, It looks kind of round on the back. Well, the reason it's round on the back is because he has a tail that looks like a lobster tail that's tucked under. Of course, I never saw it stretched out. They normally keep it tucked under, as you can see right here, for protection of their belly. These crabs, instead of living on sand, are living in a bunch of lava rock. In Hawaii they call it a'a. Here you can see that the crabs can, in fact, climb coconut trees. It's not clear whether or not they actually cut coconuts, but they are known to drop them to break them. My estimate is that these weighed from 2 to 3 pounds. Reportedly, the ones that eat coconuts can get up to about 10 pounds. There are many crabs walking around the island with borrowed shells. Some may in fact be hermit crabs. Many are probably juvenile coconut crabs. Here's my summary of Wikipedia's description of their life cycle. Coconut crabs are born in the water, then they float around as plankton as they develop for 6 to 8 weeks. Survivors sink to the bottom and find shells to wear for protection. They move into larger ones as they grow in the water. They visit land, then they go ashore. They gradually lose their ability to breathe in water. They continue to graduate through larger borrowed shells as they grow. Then they finally leave their borrowed shells. Each one develops its own hardened abdomen. We didn't notice many mosquitoes on the island. Maybe it's because of all the geckos. I saw all these geckos at the base of the lighthouse when I was wandering around one evening. Since we were on the island at the lowest of low tides, we were able to walk around the island. If the low tide had not been as low as it was, this wouldn't have been possible. On our way around the island, we saw several different kinds of crabs. These were some red ones, and there were some white ones, a large one and a small one. I don't know, I couldn't figure out what they were doing. We also saw some very pretty sea stars, a couple different configurations of sea stars. And when we got to the north tip of the island, there was about a 300-foot long sandbar. On that sandbar, we found some really pretty shells. This one was about maybe 3 inches long. Very clean, hollowed out, not broken. We left it where it was. And here's another smaller shell, but still a very good looking shell. On our last night, we had an opportunity to snorkel at night with low tide. So as we were on the top of the water, the bottom was not far away. Here we were able to see a lobster, which you wouldn't normally see during the day. He was probably about nearly 1.5 feet long. This is a squid, probably about 6 or 8 inches long. They swim with that skirt you can see moving. They can go very fast. Oftentimes you'll see them in schools. We saw 3 blue-spotted rays. This one was about 1 foot across. One was as small as 4 inches. I think the other one was about 8 inches. In that hole, there's an octopus. I would never have seen it. When he isn't breathing, he's not moving, and he blends with the rocks perfectly. This is a cuttlefish. Cuttlefish can change color at will and put on great light shows. They're very closely related to squid. They swim the same way as the squid, and they can just rock it off very quickly with that. It's surprising how much thrust they can get with that. If you look really carefully, you can see that he has several tentacles sticking out the front on the right-hand side, which is his front. This is a look back to the island after we left. The seas are much calmer than our trip to the island.